my God, we back at it again. Yes, sir. What's going on, folks? It's your boy Paul back with episode 6 of Ball Talk with Paul. Appreciate you guys rocking with me as always. This week, we got some more heat for you guys. We got week 3 NFL biggest matchups. And we're going to be talking about who's on the hot seat for the coaches. Also in college, we got a couple more matchups we got to talk about that's going to be very interesting. Then you know we got to talk that Bud and Canelo fight that happened this last weekend. And then some more WNBA coming for you guys. We're going to talk who did right in the predictions and who did wrong in my predictions. And also got to give some flowers to the coach of the year. So let's get right into it, guys. Now, we got to start off with the hottest topic in the NFL right now, the Philadelphia Eagles' famous play, the Tush Push. Everybody and their mama is crying about this play like it is the worst play ever invented in football. You can't be mad at us just because we created greatness and nobody can replicate it. Now we even got the broadcasters saying how much they hate this play. The refs are saying that this play is too hard to officiate. They can't tell who's offsides, who's false starting because of all the commotion. And even the fans, man, the fans are claiming that the Philadelphia Eagles just push their way down the field and get a touchdown every time, which we all know is incorrect. Now, you can't hate on us because we have the personnel to run this play successfully every time. We have the offensive line. We have the offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, who created this play. And we also have the quarterback who has the legs to do this, Mr. Jalen Hurts, squatting over 600 pounds. So you cannot fault us for being effective every time we run this play. Now, other teams have tried to run this play as well. The Buffalo Bills, Mr. Josh Allen, Mr. MVP, they tried to run that in the playoffs and were unsuccessful. The Green Bay Packers with Mr. Jordan Love tried to run this play as well, unsuccessful. The Atlanta Falcons tried to run this play, unsuccessful. And the list goes on. So just because they can't do it and we can, why should we be at fault for that? That is just not fair, in my opinion. And also, you have to think, it is only 1 yard. It is not 20 yards down the field and we get a free touchdown every play. 1 yard is usually the hardest yard to get in football, and we just perfected a way to get it how we love to get it, and that is by running that tush push. So don't knock on greatness just because you can't replicate it. It's just not fair to the Philadelphia Eagles or to our organization and to the players. Now, for next year, I think this will be banned, unfortunately, because of the outrages it's causing this year. But I'm just going to enjoy it while I can because I love to see it. I love to see how frustrated teams get because they cannot stop it, just like Chris Jones crashing out last week in the game. So I will enjoy it for now. If you don't like it, stop it. All right, moving on to some coaches that's on the hot seat. I have 5 coaches I want to tell you guys who I think is in trouble for their job this year. First, starting off with Mike McDaniel for the Miami Dolphins. Starting off 0-3, especially after last night's loss to the Buffalo Bills. This is definitely a thing we probably saw coming because we all can tell the players for the Dolphins just don't seem invested for Mr. McDaniel, man. They don't really respect him as a head coach. They think he's a pushover when it comes to certain things, and his schemes are just not working anymore. He's doing all that pre-snap motion and trying to fake out defense and stuff like that, but teams are ready for those types of things now because they've seen it the last couple of years with McDaniel. So he has to do something and do something fast. Now, his quarterback, Tua, is not helping him out much because he is Mr. Turn the ball over for sure, has thrown a pick in every game this season. But Mike has to figure out something soon because he will definitely be fired by the end of the season if they do not turn things around because they have the personnel to at least be competitive in the AFC East, but it's not looking too good for them starting off 0-3. Next coach is Mr. Brian Daboll for the New York Giants. Now, while Brian has had some success in the league, making it to the playoffs with Daniel Jones, it's been a while since he's done anything since then, man. And the Giants have tried to get better players for Mr. Daboll. Like, they have a good defense, probably one of the best defensive lines in the game right now, but still not getting the wins. And they had a battle with the Dallas Cowboys, still fell short, but I don't know if Brian will last much longer because I think the GM trying to be patient, but we shall see. I think, he'd probably be better off as a coordinator anyway, in my opinion. But if he doesn't get these things turned around, the New York Giants will definitely be in the hunt for a new head coach. Next coach I have on the hot seat is Brian Callahan for the Tennessee Titans. Now, the talent is there for the Titans, but I just don't think the coaching is, man. Sometimes he puts his players in personnel in a tough position and calling the wrong plays at times, which is probably not all his fault. But as the head coach, you would take the blame for that. So I think he is definitely on a hot seat. Now, he does have a new rookie quarterback with Cam Ward, and they're still trying to figure things out, but still not collecting the wins, which is the most important thing in the sport. So he has to get these things figured out soon because he has all the personnel, especially on defense. Offense can be a little bit better, but I think they have enough to win more ball games than what they have. So Brian Callahan, he better get it together unless they want a new coach in Tennessee. Next coach I want to talk about is Mr. Dave Canales for the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers have done everything they can to get this offense going, brought in another receiver, brought in some more running backs, and brought in some offensive linemen. But unfortunately, they're still not getting the job done. And Coach Canales has to figure this out soon because he might be jobless after this season if he doesn't get the ship going. Bryce Young, while he is still improving, he still looks questionable at times. And also injuries are definitely not helping the Panthers. They just lost a couple of linemen, which is going to hurt them. But you have to overcome all those things as a coach and figure it out. And I don't know if Dave Canales is the right guy for the job because it's going to take a very well-rounded coach to turn the Panthers organization around as a whole. And I don't think he's that guy. So look for the Carolina Panthers to get a new coach by the end of the season, if not during the middle of the season. Now, the last coach I want to talk about is the head coach for the Cleveland Browns, Mr. Kevin Stefanski, who I still don't understand has a Coach of the Year award, but I guess he'll take it. Stefanski, he always has a decent defense, but can never get the offense going. You know, his offenses always look mid. Really, it's really hard for them to move the ball and score effectively, which is what you need to win in the NFL. You need an offense that can at least put up points. Now, his defense is always solid for sure. Of course, leading with Myles Garrett, but you can't just be known for your defense. You got to put it all together as a head coach. And I think Stefanski will definitely be on the hot seat if he does not at least have close to a winning record this year. I know things are not perfect in Cleveland, but he has to turn these things around quick. So we shall see if he can do it, but I don't think he's the right guy for the job. I think he's better off as a defensive coordinator somewhere else. All right, moving on to the week 3's hottest matchup, man. We got those Philadelphia Eagles battling those Los Angeles Rams this week. It's going to be a tough matchup for my Birds because the Rams, they're looking pretty good this year. Definitely looking like they took a step up. Looks like they have probably the best wide receiver duo in the league right now with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, both very good at their crafts. And it's going to be a big test for my secondary, man, especially Adoree Jackson, because he has been giving up a lot of yards these last 2 weeks, and I don't think he will be able to keep going at that rate in Vic Fangio's defense because Vic does not like giving up a lot of big plays. So he will have to definitely lock in this week. And last year, the Rams, when we played the Rams twice, they looked to stop Saquon Barkley, but still could not do it. So I'm sure they will definitely be loading up that box this week so they can at least contain him in some way. But with that being said, hopefully Jalen Hurts and the passing game gets going because I know A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are yearning to get those yards that they've been missing these last 2 weeks, especially over 100 yards. Like, we all know what type of talent A.J. Brown is, big physical, run after the catch receiver. And Devontae Smith, route technician, can go over the top, beat you downfield, on the sidelines, anywhere, man. So I hope we get that passing game going because that's what we need. We want to see a complete offense from the Philadelphia Eagles because we know we have the talent. We just have to put it all together. Now, Mr. Kevin Patullo, our new offensive coordinator, he looks like he's still adjusting and figuring out how he wants to run his offense, which is, it's okay right now, but it's not going to help us in the long run because we need to know who we are and what our identity is as an offense. So hopefully we can figure that out this week. But it's going to be a close one. At least we are in Philly again, so that's an advantage for my Birds, and I think we'll take advantage of that. So I got my Eagles winning 24-21 in a close matchup against those Los Angeles Rams. In the AFC West, we have a big battle between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Man, those Chargers, they're definitely looking real contenderish this year for sure. I underestimated their potential, but Justin Herbert, he's looking like he's trying to be on an MVP level this year. And also Keenan Allen looks like he got his career revived as well, going back to his old team and being around those young guys, those young receivers. He's bringing out a new element that the Chargers haven't had in a while. Now, they do still have issues running the ball. Omari Hampton and Najee Harris really haven't done much, but as long as Justin Herbert is slinging it, they're competitive in any ball games for sure. But the Denver Broncos, they lost a close one to those Colts last week off of a field goal that they actually gave them because they had a penalty to play before and allowed them to re-kick. So I expect them to come out motivated this game for sure because they should have been 2-0. But we'll see. It should definitely be a close matchup. Now, the Broncos offense, they haven't looked too great these last 2 weeks, still struggling and figuring things out with Bo Nix. But that defense is definitely looking like one of those ones for sure. They've been flying around to the ball, causing havoc and turnovers. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. But I think those Chargers will pull this out just because they're at home. I think they're going to show why they're real contenders in the AFC West this year. So I got those Chargers winning in the close battle. I got them winning 28-14. Now, this next matchup is going to be another interesting one, division matchup in the AFC South. We have those Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans have been a big disappointment up to this point for sure. Starting off 0-2, a lot of people have them winning the AFC South, including me. So if they want to turn things around, they're going to have to do it this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The offense hasn't been looking too productive. C.J. Stroud is still running behind that offensive line. Their running game is not the best right now. And their defense has been giving up a little bit more than what people expected because they do have a lot of talent there. So we shall see if they get things corrected against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars have their own struggles. Mr. Trevor Lawrence is turning the ball over too much as well. But Mr. Trevor Etienne looks like he is back to his old self in the running back position. So that's a good sign. But the Jags have to get their wide receivers going. Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, they haven't really done much offensively. So they have to see if they can right this ship against the Houston Texans themselves. But I think the Texans are going to bounce back this week, man. I think they got to get one win on the board, and this is the week that they do it. This is going to be another close matchup, but I got them winning 28-24. And beating those Jacksonville Jaguars. Moving on to the primetime matchups. We have the battle of the winless teams. We have the New York Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs, both 0-2, looking for their first win of the year. Now, the Giants won a dogfight last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Russell Wilson threw for over 400 yards, looking like his old self, but unfortunately threw a pick at the wrong moment and caused them the game. So he's looking to make up for that loss last week, but against a tough Chiefs defense. And we all know the Chiefs don't like to give up much, especially things downfield. So I'm sure they will be adjusted to that. Now, the Giants defense is loaded, like I said earlier in the show, with their defensive line. They just have 4 linemen that anybody would love to have on their team. But you have to be able to get to the quarterback and make plays. And I don't know if they'll be able to do that against Kansas City because I know Mahomes and the gang will be extra motivated this week, especially how they lost to my Eagles last week. So I think Mahomes will carry this team over the hump this week because he doesn't have much help from either his wide receivers or his running backs, but I think they'll still pull it out. It's going to be a close one. I think the Chiefs will pull this out in a close ball game, defensive battle, 17-10, Kansas City. This last primetime matchup is going to be an exciting one for sure. We got those Baltimore Ravens versus the Detroit Lions. Now, last year, Baltimore blew the doors off of Detroit. I know Detroit will be looking to make up for that game for sure. Now, the Lions, they have to get their offense going early. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams, they have to establish the passing and running game early. Jared Goff has to look comfortable in the pocket, which he normally doesn't against teams that know how to play stationary quarterbacks. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Of course, the Baltimore Ravens have a prolific offense led by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and I'm sure both of those guys will get going because Derrick Henry didn't do much last week against the Browns. So it's going to be an interesting battle, but I do have those Ravens pulling it out. I just think they just have too much for the Detroit Lions. And the Lions, again, they lost all their coordination. It's going to be a tough battle, but I have those Ravens pulling this one out, a 38-31 victory on Monday Night Football. Let's talk some college football biggest matchups for week 4. The first matchup I want to talk about is those Oklahoma Sooners going up against those Auburn Tigers, both undefeated, 3-0. The Auburn Tigers are ranked top 25 for the first time in a while at the number 23, and the Oklahoma Sooners are number 11 in the nation. So it should definitely be a good matchup to see. Now, those Oklahoma Sooners are led by Mr. John Mateer, who was looking like a Heisman hopeful because he is definitely setting the league on notice. He's leading the Sooners right now with 944 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. So that's a great stat line for the first 3 weeks of the season. But those Auburn Tigers, they have a pretty good offense themselves, led by Mr. Jackson Arnold and running back Jeremiah Cobb. Mr. Arnold is leading them with 501 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Jeremiah Cobb has 4 touchdowns on the year with 314 yards. So it's going to be a good matchup to see. Both offenses know how to score, and both defenses are competitive. So I hope this is going to be a great matchup. I have those Oklahoma Sooners winning, though, just because they're at home, and we all know how much a home field advantage means in college football, and it can get pretty loud in Boomer Land. So I think those Oklahoma Sooners will win, and it's going to be a close one, but I got it 28-24 Sooners coming out on top. Next matchup we got to talk about is a big-time SEC matchup with the Missouri Tigers going up against the South Carolina Gamecocks. Now, the South Carolina Gamecocks were ranked last week, but unfortunately they lost in a big fashion to those Vanderbilt Commodores 31-7. So they slipped out the top 25. But Missouri Tigers, they're number 23 in the nation, so they're not a pushover for sure. The Gamecocks lost Lenore Sellers to injury last week, early first half, and that kind of rattled them early, and they just couldn't recover from that. So they're looking to bounce back because he is back in the lineup from what I see. So I expect them to be full throttle this week. Now, the Missouri Tigers definitely have a good offense to battle with the Gamecocks, led by Mr. Bo Pribolo. He's leading his team with 791 passing yards and 7 touchdowns, which is pretty good right now for only week 4. So the Gamecocks will have to be ready for him and game plan against him. I'm sure Beamer and the gang will be looking to shut him down as much as they can. And also for the Gamecocks, Mr. Nick Harbor, he has to get going more because he had flashes in week 1, but has not done much since. So he has to get himself going as well. But I think the Gamecocks will bounce back because of the loss last week, and they would just be extra motivated. But it's going to be a close one. I got them winning 24-21 and upsetting those Missouri Tigers. Next matchup that should be interesting is going to be those Nebraska Cornhuskers versus the Michigan Wolverines. Now, the Michigan Wolverines are number 21 in the nation, but they have taken a loss. They're only 2-1. And Nebraska, they're 3-0. So they're no team that you could just come in that house and just push them around for sure. Led by Dylan Raiola, a.k.a. Baby Patrick Mahomes, he is definitely looking like he's taking the next step up and trying to be considered as one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He's leading the Cornhuskers with 829 passing yards and has 8 passing touchdowns. So very, very impressive numbers for 3 weeks so far. But the Michigan Wolverines have a pretty good quarterback in themselves with Mr. Bryce Underwood. Now, he is a true freshman and just coming out of high school, but he is one of the most paid NIL players in college right now. I think he's getting around 10 million. So he definitely needs to live up to the hype a little bit more, but he's doing pretty okay right now. He's leading them with 628 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So he can get a little bit better in the touchdown area, but I'm sure he will get it once he gets his footing some more. But Michigan is definitely on upset alert. I think Nebraska's going to pull this out, especially being at home and having their crowd behind them. Dylan is going to be extra motivated to show why he is a good quarterback in this nation. So I think the Cornhuskers will win this one in a comfortable fashion. I think it'll be a 31-17 victory for those Nebraska Cornhuskers. Last and certainly not least, we have to talk about the Battle of Florida. We have the number 4 Miami Hurricanes going up against those Florida Gators. Now, last year, the Hurricanes walked into Gatorville and showed why the Hurricanes are not to be played with, led by Cam Ward last year. And this year, I think Mr. Carson Beck is just going to implement the same message. Carson Beck is leading us this year with 812 passing yards and 7 touchdowns. Then we have Mr. Mark Fletcher, of course, with 272 yards coming out the backfield, and Mr. Malachi Tony still leading the way with 228 receiving yards. So we just have too many weapons that the Florida Gators can handle. Mr. DJ Ladway, he had a bad game last week against the LSU Tigers, throwing 5 interceptions. Not great, and this is not going to get any better if you're going to play like that against my Hurricanes, because we have stepped up on the defensive side this year. So I think the Florida Gators, they would try to get some things going early, but once we shut those down, it's going to be a blowout, man, because my offense scores fast and we score quick for sure. So I have my Hurricanes winning in a fashionable manner, 38-7 against those Florida Gators. Now, we got to talk about this legendary fight that happened this last weekend between Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. What a legendary fight. And man, Bud put on a show. He showed the world that he really is the undisputed champion of the world for sure. Jumping up from 135 all the way to 168 and winning each division and winning it undisputedly. Nobody's ever done that before. Bud definitely deserves his flowers because he is one of the best boxers to ever do it. He definitely deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of boxing after this last fight. He showed the world that it doesn't matter how much he weighs, his hands are still lethal in any class. Now, he showed Canelo he had the power, the speed, the footwork, the agility, everything that he needed to beat Canelo. A lot of people thought Canelo was going to win because he's a little bit more powerful, and Bud never fought at 168, but Bud showed you that he could fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. It didn't matter. And I'm glad that he's finally getting his flowers because a lot of people have overlooked him throughout his career because he doesn't have a big name and he lives a humble lifestyle. But he definitely deserves it because he stayed down until he came up. He didn't even get paid much for this fight. Canelo, I think, got paid $150 million for this fight, and Bud only got like 10 to 15. But that's okay because his name rings bells in every house now. And for a man who got shot in the head and drove himself to the hospital, you had to know Bud was just built different. And I knew that because I had my money on Bud. So shout out to Terrence Bud Crawford, man. One of the best fighters to ever do it in the history of the sport. Moving on to the WNBA, let's check on my predictions from last week on how the first round of the WNBA playoffs are going. First team we got to talk about is how those Minnesota Lynx dominated the Golden State Valkyries. They just looked like they wanted it more, led by Nafisa Collier, of course. She was just dominant in her affair for the Lynx, and the Valkyries just couldn't find an answer for them. So the Lynx swept them 2-0, and I think they will continue to play dominant next week when they find out who their opponent is. Next series we had to talk about is those Las Vegas Aces versus the Seattle Storm. Now, of course, I picked the Aces to win, which they did, but it wasn't easy. They had to go 3 games, but the Aces, they took care of business in game 3, led by Asia Wilson. Of course, she dropped 38 points, just showing why she is a league MVP and a co-defensive player of the year. So I expect the Aces just to keep up their championship mindset and hopefully take round 2 as well. Now, this next series, we had the Atlanta Dream and the Indiana Fever going head-to-head. But I had those Atlanta Dream winning, but the Fever had other plans. They upset the Atlanta Dream yesterday. It looks like the Fever are very serious this year. It looks like they want to make a name for themselves, even without Caitlin Clark. They still have women that can produce at a high level. Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston, they're just leading the way, and hopefully they can continue to make some noise in round 2. So we shall see how far the Fever go and to see if they want to really take it to the top. Now, the last series we have to talk about is the New York Liberty facing those Phoenix Mercury, and they are both tied 1-1, and I did pick the Liberty to win this series, so I am still sticking with my guns because I just think they have the better overall team and the more experienced team. So I would expect Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionesco, and Jaquel Jones to establish why they are one of the best big 3 in the WNBA. So I expect a close matchup, but I think the Liberty will advance to round 2. Lastly, for the WNBA, I got to give my flowers to the coach of the year, Miss Natalie Nakase. Coming into her inaugural season as the new head coach on a new team for the Golden State Valkyries, she led these ladies to a playoff appearance in their first year in existence, which is a hard thing to do in any sport. So I got to give her flowers. She seems like a coach that knows what she wants from her ladies. She's well respected throughout her team and throughout the organization. So the Valkyries just look to continue to move up from their playoff appearance in their first year ever. So I expect Natalie to continue to do great things. And I just want to give her flowers for winning Coach of the Year in her first year in the league. All right, and that's a wrap for episode 6 of Ball Talk with Paul. Appreciate you guys rocking with me as always. Again, we talked some Tush Push controversy, Week 3's biggest matchups, and coaches that are on the hot seat. Then we had the Week 4 college predictions and matchups that I like. Also, we talked Bud Crawford's greatness and the WNBA's playoff. So, appreciate you guys rocking with me as always. And if you like to see this content, please make sure you subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you can see whenever I drop something new. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Do you think the Tush Push should be banned? What coaches do you think is on the hot seat? And do you have Bud Crawford as one of the greatest boxers of all time? Just let me know. But all right, guys, that's it for episode 6. Until next time, I'm your host, Paul, and we out.